All right, so as I wait for some more people to funnel in, I want to give a reminder out. We have a pretty exciting webinar that we're going to be doing
I will be on mute.
Wednesday, June 5th, June 4th, get it right, June 4th, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Okay. So that webinar is going to be on easing tension for better hoof care. Easing tension for better hoof care. So, you know, farrier work can be stressful on the horse, on the farrier, and on the owner. So we're doing a really fun webinar with Wanda and her husband Jeremy, who have been incorporating body work and relaxation into their farrier work that they've been doing. And it's going to be really exciting. Okay. So there's going to be time for question and answer. We're going to go through what they do, how they've kind of started changing what they've been doing in order to have better experiences. You know, a lot of the times we figure this stuff out on accident. You know what I mean? So they've been doing it for a while and they've been always changing and always getting better. So that's going to be a really great webinar. That's pretty much plastered all over my Facebook page, so check it out. You should also be getting it in my emails. So if you're not on my email list, message me somehow and I will get you put on there to make sure you're kind of up on the events that we have going on. And then that's going to be June 4th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So register for that early because that is not the same Zoom address that you're on right now. So that's a different one. Okay. And then, oh, I didn't talk about the homework for this week. Okay, I think everybody has stopped funneling in. So let's start with a cute video. Hold on. You know I like to do that. I saw this super cute one today and I thought, oh, I gotta share this with everybody. Here we go. Oop, Nancy's here. Can everyone see this?
Is that chaos?
That is hilarious to me. And I think my comment, look at him go. It's so funny. I think my comment that I put on that was ponies have been underutilized in warfare for a long time. So would be charge of the ponies there, man. They should have been used a lot because they are fierce, tiny but mighty. So that was cute. It's just nice seeing kids out there being crazy like we used to be, and I liked it. And those little ponies look like they were having a time of their life too. You know, they look like they were having a lot of fun. Okay, so welcome everyone to Here for the Horses. Glad you're here for the horses. Today we are going to be covering 2 massage moves that we've been doing this week and the effect that they have on the hind end. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, and then I have to tell you guys what your homework is, to be honest with you, because I forgot. So let me find this passage. This kind of, so this is the book I'm looking at. It's called Is Your Horse 100%? Okay. And it's by Margaret Hankels. Margaret Hankels. Is Your Horse 100%? And this is a great book. Oops. This is a great book. It's on fascia. So if anyone's interested in fascia work, I love the way she describes everything. I like the pictures. I like the explanation. So it's just really helpful when books are written well and you can understand them and learn from them easily. So I do like that. Let me find the area. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Okay. So I think this is it. Hind end, maybe. She talks about what we're going to be talking about, and she also talks about fascia being stored. Well, that's problem solving. Fascia being stored in the tail. Okay. Let me just go to the table of contents, I guess. I was out working with my horses, so I didn't get as organized as I wanted to. But one thing that she says is that, and I don't know how you prove this, but she says in this book that horses, if you want to look at them in a way of fascia, you can think about them as like a Tootsie Roll. Okay, so one or like a candy, a wrap up candy. Fascia starts at the face and then has an ending point at the tail. And she says that the face fascia can actually store tension and store trauma. So I don't know how you prove that it's trauma, but um, but I have been able to get really big releases off of face fascia that seemed traumatic. And you'll see what I'm talking about in some of my work where it just seems like, um, they get really head shy and they get really like defensive of their head. Okay. And I had one horse I worked on named Rowan, and she was very head shy, very reactive to the head. And I had just finished looking at this book, and um, she said, "Oh, yeah, she doesn't like her face touch. She doesn't like this." And so I started doing the techniques that were in this book, and about 2 minutes in with that face work, this horse started like violently sneezing. And it went on for about a minute, minute and a half. And I just stepped back and I let her sneeze away. And it was really interesting because after she had her sneezing fit, she did not sneeze anymore. And then I went back and I always say, check your work, check your work. And she had nothing else in there. It's like it all came out in one time. So then as upon my revisit the next week, there was nothing in her face at all. It was completely gone. So that was really exciting to be able to um, help that horse relieve that tension that had just been stored in there for who knows how long. Okay. So it was pretty amazing. Okay, so she talks a bit about what we were doing this week, which is the sacrum rub. She doesn't talk about that, but she talks about the tail rotations, the tail jostling, and the tail pull. Okay, and I'm gonna have some videos that we're gonna look at for that. But then she also has the sacrum rub. Okay, here's the passage it took me forever to find. This is in regards to the tail. The tail is a major part of the hindquarter puzzle. When you first handle it, the tail seems to have little muscle, yet it is essential to the horse's hindquarter freedom of movement. Tail releases for stiff tail vertebra are wonderful paths to hindquarter progress. Its miraculous change for such a huge, dense area of muscle through a small, easy to handle part of the horse, an expressive tail is easy to notice. Okay, and then she goes on to talk a little bit about the coccyx or coccygeal, and those are the vertebrae in the tail. Um, then she kind of talked about how sedentary horses, they don't travel 50 miles anymore. So they this relaxation of the movement of the tail gets hindered. Okay. She says many tails are like broomsticks. They are stiff, unable to bend laterally or curve upward. Very few tails are able to curve back to touch the croup as they would if flexible. In most cases, the horse's tail can bend laterally somewhat and perhaps curl halfway up toward the croup, but that is all that he can allow. Many horses are concerned when you begin to handle their tail at all. Okay, and she has some cool photos. So I'll show those to you. There's the tail bend. Okay. And then that's just the tail articulations that we were doing this week. Okay. And then moving the tail sideways. Okay. So today I want to talk about two moves that help free up the hind end. And they just happen to be our homework for the last couple weeks. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, some of you guys are new. When it comes to homework, we are doing Journey Through the Horse. And Journey Through the Horse is a program that I run once a year. All you need to be involved in that is my online clinic, which is for horse owners. It breaks the horse's body up into a bunch of videos and breaks the body up into short, easy to handle videos. And so every week we get assigned homework from the videos, and then you are able to do the homework, submit videos, and you're going to see some of those today, which were really exciting. I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the videos. They were really cool, and I found something I hadn't noticed before. And so I was extra excited because I've never made this connection before, except because you guys did such a good job on your videos, and the horses had a lot of reaction to it, that I was able to put another piece of the puzzle together. So that was pretty cool. And we'll talk about that today. But the hind end, these videos, every week we give out homework. You submit videos if you want me to give you information back. And then you are able to kind of do it again in some cases. Okay, so it's been really fun. We're on the last bit of it, so that's been exciting. But if you need that online clinic, I'll put it in the chat for you. So there is the online clinic. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the homework. I don't actually know what it is. This last week we did sacrum rub, and we did tail pull. Well, we did tail pull and tail articulation. So let me pull up my clinic and show everyone what we're talking about. And then we'll figure out what the homework is together. Maybe. Okay. Mine doesn't want to pull up. Leanne, can you pull yours up, seeing you're sitting at your computer, and take me to the hind end, and then I'll talk about it, and you can share your screen when we get to it, and then we'll go from there. But two that I want to talk about that help hind end movement. Sacrum rub. Sacrum rub. We did that 2 weeks ago. Okay. So to do that one, you stand behind the horse, okay? And you take your hands to the side of the tail dock and you rub forward up to the SI and back, forward and back, okay? Forward and back. Now, what you're going to find is that there's insertion points for the glutes and there's insertion points for the hamstrings. So you might find that you run into those muscle groups, and there will be a big difference in how they feel. So the sacrum rub is how you identify that. Do you have tight gluteals or are the hamstrings tight? So that's one of the best ways to do to kind of decipher between the two. You're also going to find that's going to release a lot of tension in the sacrum. Horses absolutely love this one. It's one of their favorites. Okay. And you can loosen up the glutes and the insertion point for the hamstring. Now, I've found that the insertion point for the hamstring is one of the main issues in hind end tightness. Okay. So it's where they insert. And what you'll find is, and I can just pull this up on any old horse, I think. What you'll find is, nope, that's not what I wanted. Oh, right here is perfect. Okay. Share screen. I'll use Ricky as an example. Okay. So this is the coaching page. If you guys are on this, Ricky right here will show you. Now, if she were rubbing, she's kind of down on the insertion point for the hamstring here. Okay. So this section right here. Now, if this were raised up from the tail dock back, you're going to find that that's a tight hamstring insertion. Okay. If this were raised up, and sometimes you'll even see a funny little line right here of fascia, then that's going to be the glutes. Okay. So same with Mira here. You can see her hamstring here starting to go up. So if there was a noticeable line right here in this area and this hamstring insertion was raised up, you would have to loosen that up, and you would do that with the sacrum rub. There's not too many other ways to do that except with some stretching. So again, this is kind of a cool angle. And I've also found, if you ever find the divot, so there can be a divot. Oh, we'll talk about that photo actually here in a second too. Oh, here. Okay, sweet. This will be cool. So here's what I'm talking about. See, this is actually the bicep femoris, but the semitendinosus would be back here, and see how these come up here and insert right there. Okay. So that's one example of that sacrum rub showing you which muscle is the issue. Okay. It'd be right back there. Now, again, this is the artist's rendition of what the hind end looks like. So we give some grace for some of these artistic things, but this is, I love these, how they compare all the muscles. I just think that's cool. Okay. And then you can see here on Frida's, this looks really good. Let me turn that off so you guys can see. She's an Icelandic. I don't know if I've seen a tight hamstring on an Icelandic, to be honest with you. But look at how that all blends in. I haven't actually seen a horse on here that it doesn't blend in. Except I did show you guys that red horse a couple weeks ago, right? That his hind end was like pointy at the top. Okay. So that's why the sacrum rub when you're standing behind him is going to be so helpful. Okay. Yeah, Jennifer.
Talking about the hind end blending in, it reminded me of a question I had when I was looking through the videos the other day. You had made a comment on Cinder that he has a big booty and you can't see the individual muscles, and how that was such a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was all blending in. So if my question is, if you do see them, the individual muscles, is it always that it's tight, or is it sometimes just that they're just really a lean, thin horse?
It's generally that they're tight.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only muscle you should see in the hind end is going to be that crease. Okay, with the semitendinosus and the bicep femoris where they match, that big crease that everybody sees on their booty.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't see any other muscles. Now you can see them when they're walking. So you'd see the TFL if they're walking, but if they're just standing there, I don't want to see muscles. I want them big and fluffy, and I want them like a pillow. Even the lean horses.
Okay.
Okay. So your thoroughbreds, you can generally see their muscles, especially after they've been messing around or if they've been running really hard or whatever, but you shouldn't see them individually like a painting, because that means they're tight. It could mean that the skin's tight. Okay, sometimes it's the fascia that's restricting. You never know. But if you're concerned, shoot me a photo too.
Thanks. Sometimes I just have a hard time recognizing what's tight and what's not tight, if it's just
Mm-hmm.
athleticism or if it's really tight. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big thing in school when you know, when I was learning, there were like, I think my instructor was like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's who she used as an example. She was like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's muscles are loose, but you can see every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when he has to flex them and tighten them in order for them to look like that, with those big bodybuilders and stuff like that, they have to strain those muscles in order to make them pop out like that. When bodybuilders are walking around normal, you wouldn't really know they're bodybuilders because their muscles are supposed to be loose. So
Mm,
if they're always tight or always strained, and I've seen people at my gym like this, they're not getting a full range of motion, and their muscles are strained, or they don't, you know, they don't have that sliding isn't happening. Okay. And then when they put the muscles to work, then you see them. So if the horse, like I said, is in motion or is, you know, running or trotting or doing something, you're going to see the muscles then because they're flexing. Okay.
sure. Okay.
So what does flexing mean? Well, they get tighter. They're not relaxed. They're in use.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. That's
Yep.
a good question. I can't hear you, Leanne. You got it pulled up for me?
Yeah, I can pull it up. Do I just click share?
Yeah. And then I think I have to give you access.
Oh, yeah.
It's not asking me.
Well, now it looks like I can share, so I've got to see what I'm going to
Okay,
share
good.
here. Brave, I guess entire screen.
Because I think we're on hind legs, you guys, which is going to be my favorite.
Just to share your screen. Okay.
Because we've done tail, we've done hind end. So now we're going to start going down the hind legs. So it's going to be hind leg, same as the fronts. Okay, so we're going to be doing hind leg traction, hind leg rub, and let's do the hock rub. Hock rub and hock scratch. Okay.
Can you
So
see
we
this
did
yet?
that on,
All
what's
right,
that?
welcome back, everybody.
Whoops.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah, I just got to make sure that I'm sharing the right thing here. Here, this. I don't know. Can you guys see that?
No, that's okay. We don't need it.
Okay.
So
All
we're
right.
doing hind leg, upper leg. So we're going to be doing the rub. So you're going to rub it to warm it up with a warm hand. Okay. Oh, here it comes. And then we're going to do, yeah, right here. Okay, here we go. This is our homework. Inside hind legs, front of the hock. That's going to be the two of them. Inside hind legs and front of the hock. Okay. That's a cute little tawny horse. He's so sweet. Okay, so inside of the hind legs, front of the hock, and you're going to also do, you know, the outside of the hind legs. Okay. So similar to the front legs, rub up and down, warm it up, jostle it, work your way down the muscle. Make sure you're doing the inside of the hind legs. They absolutely love this. And then we're going to do the hock. Okay. Thanks, Leanne. Now remember, on when you're scratching the hocks and the knees, they love that. With the hock, what you're going to find when you start doing it is they're going to go, oh, okay. They'll start rotating that hock out because they really like that one. So don't let that scare you. Just kind of be ready for it. Okay. Because they love, love, love The inside of that hock rubbed is almost guaranteed the front of the hock, and then sometimes that little crevice above the hock that goes up, it's kind of like a little indent. Rub that really good, scratch it, move it around, make sure all the skin moves, make sure the skin moves on the hock, okay? And you're going to, they're gonna love it. They're gonna really like it, okay? What you got, Cheryl?
I was working on one of our horses yesterday, and he was kind of dragging his hind leg toes as he was walking. What muscles would cause, what would I work on to fix that?
So if they're dragging, that's gonna be either the TFL because they're not lifting the hind leg enough, right? The TFL is the hip flexor. Okay, so that would be the first place I would start. Because if you don't think about older people when they fall a lot, right? So people are always talking about the elderly falling. Every time you go to the doctor, they say, have you fallen lately? It's because they don't pick their feet up. So one of the, if you look into exercises for the elderly on how to not fall, the first exercise is almost always marching in place. Okay, because they want them to just pick your leg up higher. Okay, because they're kind of shuffling their feet across the ground. They're not picking their leg up. Then it gets caught on something, then they fall. Okay. The next thing, if you're going down the leg, you want to make sure there's no tension in the stifle.
When I
Okay.
was working on the stifle, he would pick up his hind leg and kind of like almost like he was gonna kick, but he didn't kick.
That's tension. So what I would do is I would just put my fingers on it and see if you get a release out of that. So kind of back off if it's a little bit too much for him. Just hold your fingers there, bring attention to it for him. He already knows there's tension there if he's kicking like that, right? He knows there's tension there, and it's kind of like, whoa, that's too much. We're gonna see some really cool stuff today. And just hold your fingers there, bring attention to it for him, and see if you can get a release. Hold it for like 30 seconds to a minute. It's awesome. They can get rid of that tension themselves.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing that I'm going to think of is going to be the flexors are not flexing enough, and the extensors, the digital extensors, are tight. Okay. Because if the hoof would curl up the way it's supposed to when it comes forward, they wouldn't drag their toe. Okay. So I want to make sure that those flexors are loose and kind of firing when they're supposed to, but I would take a look at the extensors of the hind leg, the digital extensors specifically, and make sure those aren't too tight, and I bet they are. Okay, so
Okay.
you're gonna go down the front of the cannon bone, the front of the hock, sorry, the front of the pastern, the fetlock, all the front of that so that you can loosen all that up. If you do, flexion on that foot, does that feel really tight? Check all those. And then go up to that hock and make sure that everything, when we do this kind of scratching around the hock and rubbing around the hock, sometimes the ligaments that are trying to go through that area get kind of jammed up. So if you can help just relieve some of the tension there, it can get a better range of motion. Okay.
Okay.
And then when we do leg range of motion after this week for the hinds, I want you to do it on that horse so I can take a look.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of a guessing game. So you have to kind of start. I definitely for that particular case would start at the TFL, the flexor, because is he even picking the leg up enough? If he's not picking the leg up enough, it doesn't matter what the rest of the leg's doing. It's always gonna drag. Okay. Good question. Okay. So that's your homework. I will get that into my little slide and put it up for you guys. Yeah. Heather said hind leg work is perfect timing for my gelding as he has tight rear legs. Yeah, and when we get to this inside hind leg above the hock, that one that you're assigned this week, This really shows up with leg range of motion. So if the leg, when you pick it up and bring it forward, and that's not our homework for this week, we'll get to it, but I'm going to talk about a lot when we get to it. If that hock pulls inward, when you bring the leg forward, you guys have probably felt it and maybe didn't know it. If the leg goes, it should just go forward, right? But if the hock pulls in and there's a lot of tension there, it's almost always that spot above the hock on the inside. Okay, so when we get to that, I'm going to be pounding that, and I'll have some diagrams of what muscle that is. But that's a really easy way to loosen all that, and it goes all the way up. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Today, the hind end's going to be really fun. You guys got wild results this week. Yeah, that makes sense. Cheryl said when Crockett brought up his leg to kick, it was pulling inward. Yeah, he's got tension back there. Totally. Okay. This will be good. Crockett. Okay, so this week we talked a little bit about the sacrum rub. I think that one's really important to reduce tension in the hind end. The next one, which I have found, which is in that book that I was talking about, is the tail articulations and the tail pull. Okay, so the tail articulations is you take every single joint and just kind of wiggle it all the way down, forward and backward, left and right, forward and backward, left and right. And for those of you who don't have my clinic, on my public page, Winning Your Horse's Heart, I have many videos on tail work. Okay, so try it out. Try out the tail work. And I go through tail articulations and I go through tail pull. Okay. But the first thing we did was we warmed the tail up, warmed it up, and then we just went individually down the tail and went forward, backward, left, right, forward, backward, left, right, and moved every single little joint going down that tail. Okay. And some of you, I could tell just by looking, where your horse was tight, and we'll take a look at some of those videos. So the tail articulation was a really big one, and I saw some really cool stuff this week. So I'm going to show videos here in a second. And then the second one was the tail pull. Okay, so technically that's three things. Sorry, misadvertising. Sacrum rub, tail articulations, tail pull make a huge difference in the hind end. Huge difference. Okay. Tail pull, I want them squared up. I want you to not hold on to the actual coccygeal vertebra. You're holding on to the hair of the tail. You lean back slowly and give them a chance to kind of get ready for the idea of that. Then you kind of sit back and use your body weight to kind of stretch and pull not only the tail, but all the spine. And about that time is when you find them kind of leaning forward, right? We saw that on a couple of those horses. They really enjoyed that, leaning forward. Okay. You can sometimes feel the little coccygeal kind of bump, 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 because they've been jammed up for a long time. And then when you do that, if your horse steps at any point in time, I want you to come up out of that. So I don't want them stepping while you're doing a tail pull. I don't want any weird tension on any of the joints in the hind end. Okay. Any questions on those? We're going to watch some videos of them. So. Yeah, cool. So Carol just said, my mare really knows how to lean into the tail pull, but some days she says, not today, and will not lean in. That's super interesting. Very cool that you know that, actually. That shows you're paying attention. So yeah, if they get relief on that and they enjoy that some days, and then one day they're just like, nah, then skip it. Don't do it. Because they know what they need, and if they don't feel like it, there's no reason to do it again, especially if they do it pretty regularly. That's cool. Good job. Okay, let's take a look at, I have everybody written. I am organized enough to have everybody written down on what I wanted to show. Okay, so let's go up here. I'm going to, actually, you guys saw this photo I put up. Oh man, this photo popped up as an inspiring photo. And I was like, yes, to someone who does not understand equine bodywork, that is a pretty horse, right? But to me and a lot of people in this group, we saw a lot of issues here. One issue is I have a major issue with this section of his neck. I have another issue with this section of the neck. Very unhealthy. This looks like an older horse, so we'll cut him some slack. You know what I mean? He's also underweight and you can see his ribs. His eye looks a bit dull too. So yeah, there's some stuff going on with this particular horse. I do think he's probably elderly. So that's one issue, but this part of his neck is obviously over flexing for this part that's not moving at all. And this part that's bulging. Can everyone see that that's not, what do I say? I want to see a banana. That you would not eat that banana. That would be a bad banana. Okay. So this is all sunk in and underweight too. So I was not inspired by that. I was inspired to massage him more. Okay. Let's take a look here at some videos. Ricky's tail. So I'm not going to tell you guys what I noticed in all these videos, and then I'm going to stop and we'll look at them again at the end. Okay. So I'll go through these quick. Let's see, 250. Can you guys see that? Should I make it bigger? Okay. To release. Well, that is moving very. I'm replaying it. Okay. This is gonna be too easy for you guys. I already know it. Okay, so that was Ricky. Okay, here we go. What's the next victim on here? Mystic Knight. Get that. Okay, hold on. Installing what I was doing. Her tail was a bit tight. 250. Okay. One more. Let's see, is this the right one? No, that's not the right one. I have one in Milagros also. Predis, okay. Hold on. I gotta mute myself so I don't give it away. Okay. Is this one it? Let me see. This might be it. Hold on. Oops. Let me see. I love it. Said that. Quiet. Okay. And then the last one I'm going to show you is Mags. Here he is. Tail. This one has this one has a bonus. Let me see. I'll go to the first one here. Okay. And I got one more bonus that doesn't have anything to do with this, but I thought it was interesting. Okay. All right. So, what did you guys see? That was very interesting. Put it in the chat. What'd you guys notice? Yeah. It's coming out the hind end. The hind legs were moving. Isn't that wild? So I think Megs had a pretty big one. Milagros was really interesting this week. So if you guys have a chance, definitely watch his progress because it was wild. I think Freitas was really interesting what she did. So let's watch that one again because hers was pretty straightforward. She's up here at the top, I think. Freitas and Mags, I think, were the most obvious. And then the other ones you might not, well, she was pretty obvious too. You might not notice if you weren't paying attention. There she is. Let's see. 250. Oh, another thing I want to talk about. Beautiful. There's not a ton of room in between them, so it's not like they're a huge. Look at that. And then this part I love. Yeah. So I find that very interesting. So she was feeling it. The tail was making her hind end feel funny. That's what that is. And she's shaking, right? So she's releasing tension. She's making her feel funny. She goes to walk. And then she's got an itch on her hind leg. But that lead rope she was stepping on the lead rope, so she couldn't release it. Okay. So that's something that I've noticed. I've noticed horses, their hind legs, raise up for whatever reason. I have not ever seen that I've never seen it lined up so well with the same work. Does that make sense? So this week we were working on tail. And this week I have never seen so many horses do that with their hind legs. So the tail work, just like that book was saying, I mean, this week's homework was pretty much proving that book to be correct. Because as we are releasing the tail, the sensation was coming out in the hind end. Okay? On multiple horses. So that was really, really interesting for me. Tail articulation And the tail articulation was definitely the most where it had that hind end movement going on. You could see, especially with Frida's, how she was almost like, that's making me feel funny. And then the second part, you know, you guys know I talk about, people always go, well, like, why do they chew on their rib cage? Why do they chew, you know, bite at their leg? Or why do they do that? Why is that a release? And I always say, I think it's because whatever you're doing sends kind of a sensation to another part of the body, and then they go to itch it, right? Like if you pull out a nose hair, you know, you're like, got to itch something, right? So that's what I've always compared it to. And it was really cool watching these videos this week where you're not working on their legs, you're working on their tail, and it's coming out in their legs. Okay. So Ricky did that also. I think it's super interesting. So that was a big walk away that I had this week. Okay. Does anyone have questions about that? I mean, it's new to me, so I've seen it. We've talked about, oh, it's coming out in the hind legs, right? In some other videos, but I've never had it come out like this in so many different videos. It's really cool. So it's showing how that tail is connected to the hind end. Okay. I do think there was a huge improvement in Milagros. So let's take a look at him real quick. Escape. Milagros, if you remember, I always say he doesn't manage his emotions well. Okay, because he's a younger horse. He gets a little nervous. Okay. And so with young horses, they don't manage their emotions as well as older horses. They have a tendency to go from, you know, 2 to 7. Like, I can't handle it. Okay. But older horses that have been around a little better or a little more, they are a little better at managing their emotions. So they will give more warnings. They won't amplify that quick. You know, they'll do the kind of dirty look. They'll put an ear back. They'll switch their tail. They'll stomp. They'll walk off. Where younger horses, it's like, oh, they don't like something, and then all of a sudden they're kind of throwing a little hissy fit. It's funny. Chester does that because he's a little mentally young, So he'll be going along just fine, and then all of a sudden he won't like something, and he'll kind of throw a little hissy fit. Okay, so Milagros has a tendency to do that. So let's just watch him for a little bit. This is the second one. So we'll watch a couple minutes of the first one here. Oh my. Yeah, that was a big deal, actually. And you know, Elaine's smart because she's like, I don't know how he's going to react, so I'm going to stand off to the side. So see how he goes from, see, that's what I'm talking about. He goes from, I'm having a hard time handling this, to I'm going to overreact. Because look at what he's doing. He's like, it's making me a little uncomfortable. I'm trying to kind of get away, but oh, I can handle it. He gets mouthy. Oh, he likes that. Okay. And then you can tell it's starting to kind of mount up on him, and then he's like, blah, I just need out of here. Okay. But look at what's happening. Big release of tension. Okay. So I probably would have given him a little more of a break there so that he could really settle into the release. And now he's getting worried again, right? Because he's feeling all that. Okay, so that was Milagros on the first one. And then I gave her a couple tips on things I wanted her to do. And she came back and here he is on this one. This one was excellent. So with him, remember we watched that, look at, did you see it come out in his hind leg there? With him, I don't remember, I think it was ribs, remember? For those of you that were here, he was doing ribs. And it's like, I have 4 different ways to do the ribs. And so she was working on him and he was like this for the first one. And then for the second type, which got more intense, he got real quiet, real stoic. And then the third one, he was kind of like, I don't know if I can handle this. And then the fourth one, he couldn't handle it. So he walked off. Okay. So we have to remember with horses like him, if he's standing and kind of doing this with his mouth, he's fine. But if he starts moving his feet, he just went stoic. He just went stoic. Okay, so that's something that would get my attention. Oh, now he's moving his feet. Okay. There, now she's doing the sacrum rub. That's beautiful. He likes that, doesn't he? So you can see a lot of emotions with this horse. He kind of tells you everything. And then he gets a little fidgety. Okay, big release. And then he's going to fake eat, which is all that is. Okay. Isn't that cool? What a huge difference between how old is he? He's not like young like 3. I think he's like 6 or 7. So he's not like baby young, but some of them are mentally young and he's mentally young. Like Chester's 8 now, but he still acts like a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So, your quarter
Malog,
horse is, oh, how old is he?
he just turned 6.
Oh, he's a baby. Yeah.
So, and it was so amazing the difference between the first time I did it, he was really animated. And he has never let his tail be anything but clamped down. Now he's fabulous to brush his tail, fabulous to do anything with it, doesn't care, but he is not going to, it's clamped solid. And my
Wow.
thoroughbred I had before, you could have tied knots in it. He was happy. And the second time I worked him, I could lift it up. I could do anything. The change was phenomenal. So it was a huge difference. And you could see he wasn't as defensive. That first time in the stall was very different than anything I had seen, other than when I did the neck twisting and that. The first time I did the neck twisting, he was almost dangerous. The
Yeah.
second time he was fabulous. And same with his tail this time. It was very, very different. Very successful. I thank you.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Because
It's really exciting.
Yeah, because who pays attention to a tail? You know what I mean? But look
That's
at
it.
how much tension was in that. That's
Oh my
wild.
God. It was crazy, and how much tension must have always been in there,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's never allowed you to move or lift his tail at all. So I just ignored it because I thought, well, if it's that important to him. But now that you showed how to do it, it was magical.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. That's so cool. So yeah, for those of you that haven't done the tail work yet, feel free to do it. It's so interesting. I found this week really, really fun to watch all these videos. If you don't have my clinic, you can get it, or you can search tail work on my public site and also get it. I mean, I show a lot of videos on there too. And every time I never know what videos are going to do well, but every time I put up a tail video, a tail and poll are generally the winners. People love it and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never been able to, like Elaine was saying, never been able to lift the tail or the pull. I never knew had so much tension in it. So that was really fun. This week was really fun for me, and who would have known, right? The tail. Okay. Any other questions? Questions? Okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining who I see some new faces, so that's super exciting. Every Sunday, this is available. You're very welcome, Linda. Thank you. Every Sunday we do this, and this has been really fun because we've been doing Journey Through the Horse, so we've had a lot of cool stuff to go over every week. But I'll generally, when we're not doing Journey Through the Horse, pick a subject and show some videos from whatever work I've been doing that week, or I'll go over other things, and we have a kind of a similar pattern. But I also give out homework after. I also give out homework just generally as we meet on these. I will give you a little teaser. I am going to be doing a 3 to 4 week anatomy course. So I'm going to go over the muscles. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. I think muscles are so cool. I'm going to pick the major muscle groups. I'm going to do, and some of you have seen it if you're on my newsletter, I'll do like a bicep femoris, insertion, origin, and action. And I think that that's so cool. I mean, you get to know where the muscles are, what they do, where they insert. So that's going to be like a 3 to 4 week course that I'll do for anyone that wants to sign up for that. And then I'll probably blend some of that into the Sunday calls also. And so get ready for that if you're a muscle nerd like a lot of us are. I know Wanda is. Wanda loved them muscles. Leanne will be on board. Definitely check that out. I'll be announcing it, and I'll put a lot of flyers up on my Facebook, so check on that too, okay? Because that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun.
Could I ask a quick
Okay.
question, please?
Yeah.
I have a meeting I have to go to on Wednesday. Is there,
It is, I assumed you cut out, but I assumed you asked if there's going to be a recording. There will be a recording. It's going to be put up as a webinar. And so anyone after that point in time will be able to watch the webinar. I have to figure out how to make it free. So I think I'm going to do, I'll have to put a price on there because that's how my platform works. And then I'm going to offer a 100% off discount coupon. So it'll go with everything and everyone will be able to access it. So share that with your friends and you'll definitely be able to see that because it's really important. I think stuff that's really important should be easily accessible to everyone, especially when it comes to safety. Also, you know, same with the work that Nancy Piper and I did with the Healing Hearts. So anyone who's lost a pet knows how hard that is. And so we wanted to make sure that all that information was free. So that is free for anyone that's lost a pet. So if you're grieving the loss of a pet, get a hold of me and I have some videos for you that Nancy put together for us. It was awesome. So yes, there will be a recording. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for coming. And this recording will be up if you want to watch it on my YouTube. They're all on my YouTube. Okay. Winning Your Horse's Heart. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Can't wait to see your homework. Bye.